Morning, everyone. Almost 10. Compliance Tuesday, 11 of 11. Should be carnival starting somewhere in Europe today. Fasching in Germany. Even in Holland, we have carnival. The 11th of the 11th. The crazy number, the crazy topic. PPWR with the not so crazy André Gierke as my co-host this morning. Welcome you all.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks, André. Just discussed in the practice session. One of the last men standing, not being hit by an omnibus from Brussels yet, but thanks for joining because there's two angles on packaging. One is when you place it on the market and should be compliant, because ultimo it will become recycled or recyclable. You cannot ignore one of those two functions of the packaging, if you want to say so. 425 people signed up. We waited 2-3 more minutes for people to join. I know that many of you will join probably from one account, so the total number will be a little bit less, but nevertheless, for this topic, I think it's a very important topic. André and I have been in this session a year ago and half a year before that, so we'll not deep dive on all the slides that I have. Some I will go over very quickly. You anyway get all the slides, and I will make a reference to our previous sessions because André, they're still relevant, still valid.
Yeah, sure.
Although the world has changed a little bit since. So let's take it from here. So deep dive a little bit back, André. July 16, 2024. We had an update that was already an update session on packaging and packaging waste regulation. So take some slides of that where we said we predict that this XYZ, or we think it will be signed off ABC, and so we go over that in a quick tempo first, and then we'll take it a little bit slower into where we are today. So already said, maybe André, quick introduction for those who don't know you.
Yeah, sure. I'm André Gierke, founder and executive partner of EPR Compact, assisting producers, importers, manufacturers, retailers of non-food products to know and understand EPR obligations, and especially to monitor them and implement them according to a common thread within their companies in order to really efficiently master EPR compliance. Extended
producer responsibility.
Exactly.
So that is not just packaging.
No, it's the focus of EPR Compact is packaging, but also batteries and WEEE, so waste of electrical and electronic equipment.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So one of the key questions is that André and I had since July 2024, which is way over a year. I know what we have been doing. Not everything has materialized yet, but priorities shift a little bit, but plans on dots on the horizon not. But what have you been changing in the meantime? That was one of the key questions. And I think it's important for us, but also for you compared with colleagues, to understand where you are and to see if we can, get a benchmark on where you are. So I've prepared 2 or 3 questions on the Mentimeter that I would like to activate for you. So I would say bring out your smartphones and join me for, I think it's 2 or 3 questions now, and at the end 2 or 3 questions. It's anonymous. I don't know. I know who you are because I can see you in the list, but I don't know who's voting for what. Only what's interesting in the participants list, it is indeed a complete mix of supply chain roles. So it's people making, let's say from a production point of view, not from an EPR point of view, making producer. You will explain a little bit more about that. Also, so they are designing, manufacturing, importing. Some are putting it on the market under their own brands. Some are retail and buy and sell branded articles as well as private label. I think it's fair to say that these days most of the companies, especially in Europe as well, have an internet outlet somewhere, either a store on Amazon or similar. So they're all in different supply chain roles. But so the mix is interesting, and I expect that we can get questions from them across the board. All right. Let's see what we can do here. So I thought it'd be fair to say and ask a question that is, how confident are you that your organization will meet the first phase one PPWR requirements by August 2026? Bear in mind, August 2026, then these products will probably land Q2. That means you have or are close to order them. That is the reality. They will ship after Chinese New Year. They will be in your warehouse in June. They will be on the market August. So if you are sliding,
very interesting, because I know, I don't know if you know, but there's a study out there, and that referred to 90% of the companies out there are not ready or are not PPWR ready. And if you ask me, to be honest, I don't think that the 10% are. You know, so we have 5.8 here. So you're very confident. That's very good. But I'm excited. Do you have the same question later on as well?
Yeah, I have.
Let's see.
Gary, you raised hand. I cannot let you speak. So if you want to say something, put it in chat, please. Thanks. But Andre, we need to admire confidence. You know, top confidence belongs to. I think it's an asset of retail and trade. You need to be confident. You need to have the balls to buy a product and sell the product and go for it. But then somebody in the organization will say, "Yeah, I like your confidence," but we need to put a small reality check on your confidence. And I would be surprised if many of this audience would say, "I've heard of PPWR, but that's about it." But I'm with you that they underestimate the complexity. And we go into in that little bit later, but the complexity, when you look at the end result, you think it's very tangible. You know, it's what we have been doing. We're asking for heavy metals, and we understand that as a consumer, I throw it in the bin with the blue cover in Holland, and it will be picked up, and the local football team will get 10 cents per kilo for whatever, something like that. Higher recycling. But if you, and we go over that later, if you salami tactic, if you thin slice this problem, then you realize that the supply chain behind packaging is probably far more complex than the supply chain behind the product. And if you look at then the number of items in the packaging that people have accumulated in the last years, then you realize that you need to simplify first before starting working on the solution. And simplifying first is a challenge and will take considerable time, because you need to make a policy, you need to design it, and then you need to transfer that into reality and perhaps find dedicated suppliers. Yes, dedicated suppliers. All right. Nice map. A little stuck in the middle. That's good. You know, that's good. That's good. So what would be blocking you today from progressing or accelerating on this topic? Just a single line of text, and then I move back to my slides. Time. That's good. Well, time is passing by itself. You know, that's. I'll give you one advice. If you type in time, you can use the function to replace time by priority. I know, because you are all in my inbox somewhere, but I'm not giving you all the same priority. Yes, I'm honest. Knowledge. Okay, knowledge and guidance. We're going to deal with that today. Clear guidance, capacity. company commitment, complex legal text, no harmonized standards yet. Yeah, okay, let's disagree on some of that. National legislation, priorities, teams in the company. All right, good. Makes sense. Let's go back to knowledge and guidance. Just a quick why we go back to PPR refit. That was already the question that time, because the old directive is from 1994. They gave me a great example to go back in time. Maybe, dare to say, 130 people, probably 80% is not from 1994, because in 1994, a guy named Jeff Bezos launched Amazon. 1994. Small desk somewhere in a small office. One guy think, oh, it's a good idea. Let's sell books via the internet. Books. Yes, books. You know, books, paper cover, books. So why this? Because now you realize how old that old directive was and how out of sync with today's reality it also had become. So sometimes legislation has to change for multiple reasons. One is the reality of the way products end up at your and my desk or my home, just simple routes to market. And the other one is our world and goals that we set for ourselves. That's why you also see that the new legislation has not only goals for August next year, but 2030 and 35 and beyond. Quite long. I think you all agree that the convenience of e-commerce is magnificent, but I also enjoy the brick and mortar retailing experience. So try to find some balance. Nothing beats a baker store and fresh smell of bread. That cannot be beaten by e-commerce. But if you look at packaging, we are consuming more with more people. And the reality check is that packaging mostly is using virgin materials these days. So virgin carton, virgin paper, virgin plastics. 40% of plastics and 50% of paper used in the European Union are for packaging. So let that sink in. 40% of plastics, 50% of paper. That's virgin material, basically used in many a case. Recycling percentages, you can tell me later a little bit more, Andre, about what the current calls it, but it's virgin material used into something what actually has very limited time span and limited value compared to the value of the product. Of course, it's protecting, but it's also a holder. So of all the waste that you and I produce in a year, it's 36% of the solid waste. That's a lot. That's really a lot. Now, the reality is that we expect that this number of packaging is going to double to 2030. So that means the 40% and 50% in a total volume will double. That's not good. That's not good. That's not good at all. That's very not good. So we need to limit, first of all, what we are producing. That will be interesting. Limit what we produce. And then what we need, because packaging does have a purpose, and reuse as much as possible of that. Yeah? And what we aim for is reduced the waste to 50%, half of 2 years ago. So in 2030, we have twice as much units as today. And we want to go back to waste contribution to half of 2023. So roughly, you can say, okay, double and half, 25%. Yeah. So because we double packaging, because we have a number of units, 25%. That's massive. That can only be done if we start to reuse packaging material more, make it reusable. So that you must be able to make it reusable first. Then you can use recycled material, because if you cannot put it into the recycle supply chain, then you cannot reuse it. So make it reusable and or recyclable by 2030. And obviously harmonized. Don't make it EU country A and B and C in different kind of legislation. Make it harmonized, because packaging has no geographical footprint in that sense. It has a global footprint or a European footprint. So Current status, it's adopted, it's a regulation, so it's the same game for all the EU countries. Used to be directive, that's a regulation. I quickly go over a number of slides now because this is lingo language. You should have known, and if not, you read it again. It's not very important in the sense that it comes back into the discussion later, but it's important for you as a library. So we have 3 kinds of packaging: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Actually, we have 4. We have also e-commerce packaging. That's new. E-commerce packaging is like a consumer packaging and a transport packaging together. It's used to ship something to me, but then I need to recycle it. So it has a transport function, but it also has a EPR role for me as a consumer. I need to get rid of it. That makes it specific because transport packaging ends somewhere from B2B. Then a business needs to get rid of the transportation packaging. In this case, e-commerce, I need to get rid of it. So special group, 4 types packaging. And then, of course, there's a whole bunch of things and discussions. There will be guidance. And as an example, you have all kinds of food containers and sandwich bags. You get all kinds of discussion. Is this then a packaging or does it have a function? You have this discussion with the soap and then the soap balls you can blow. Is this container packaging? Actually, it's not, because without it, you cannot have a product and it serves a function. All right. To be honest, when I read all these discussions, I think it's a waste of time, because if I would be in that industry, I would make this of recycled plastic and ensure that it's recycled again. What the hell is this discussion just to pay for something somewhere? What a waste of time. Just solve the bloody problem. That's my opinion. Okay. It's just Tuesday, 11/11. Don't shoot the messenger. So sometimes it's a packaging when they are considered and designed and intended to be filled at the point of sale. André, you have an opinion about that, but don't destroy my takeaway cup of coffee in the morning when I leave a hotel, okay? Don't do that.
Okay.
Just the basic timeline and up to the next 5 years. The first benchmark, August 12, 2026. General application and declaration of conformity. So I go in details later. 2028, DFR, explain later. Guidelines, harmonized labels. Then reuse DRS deadlines. Then grade C, recycle minimum. This is still phase 1, André, right?
This is in the end, well, 2030 is
2028
stage
phase 2.
2030 is stage 2, but 26 is stage 1. And
Yeah.
that one is the most crucial one for probably all of you out there.
Yeah, it's the foundation,
Exactly.
the fundament.
Exactly.
You see all kind of new things like a DFR and grade C. What is that? And declaration of conformity. Is that CE? Something like that. So DFR, design for recycling. I'll bring it back in a large font again, because I think it's very, very important. You see this principle in other legislation. Well, design for safety, right? Don't test for safety. Design for safety. Design for recycling. Makes complete sense if you see the goals for packaging. So design. If you are now buying packaging that is ready-made by somebody who is making the product and has not considered recycling, then I can bet you $1 to dime that is not designed for recycling. Okay, but okay, let's wait till 28, André, because then the guidelines will be released and we will have recyclability grades A, B, and C. So I'll wait for that. Because design for recycling, this is new for me. DFR did not finish. I see that on the Formula One DNF. Is that the same?
In the end, if you do so, you probably hit the bottom very, very hard in 2026 already, because this is, if you read like the press or LinkedIn feed or whatever, you always see that there is a focus on 2030 and statements like all packaging has to be recyclable in 2030. Yeah, but that's stage 2, because packaging has to be recyclable since ever, or since the 90s already. And one of the main targets of the PPWR is to reinforce the essential requirements for packaging. And if all of you go through the PPWR, you see that there is Article 6, which is the article dealing with recyclability. And 6.1 states that all packaging placed on the market has to be recyclable. All of the other ones, like 6.2 and the further ones, the further clauses, they refer to 2030, maybe 2035 and stuff.
Okay.
But the recyclability requirement is valid and is there already, and at the latest in 2026. So recyclability has to be assessed in the conformity assessment, which is required for every packaging that you place on the market. And people always wait for like guidelines, and they say that, oh, it's not defined what is recyclable, but that's a lack of knowledge in the end, because there are rules for that existing since years, and you have to apply those. And nobody assesses that at the moment. And a lot of people are waiting for the 2028 guidelines and stuff, but that could hit you very, very hard, to be honest.
So if I quickly rewind you, because you said somewhere it had to be recyclable already for a long time. So part of the new regulation in between the lines reading is that we fucked up.
It is.
So this, you know, nothing yet about grades A, B, and C, I assume. It's nothing released, right? But you can imagine that what has been done so far in the market, where it's been done in a proper way, it probably will be A, not even B and C.
Well, there are those grades are not existing yet. There are some eco-modulation approaches out there and stuff.
Right.
And what's maybe very, very important for all of you, there is no real like failure criteria existing at the moment. The failure criteria, less than 70% recyclability, that enters into force in stage 2 in 2030. But before that, recyclability is required anyway. So you could say if it's more than 0% recyclable, it's at least recyclable. And
so it has to do in terms of materials. You use a certain material in somewhere in the packaging, and that material cannot be recycled, or you have some sticker sticked on a piece of paper, and we all have those somewhere in our house where you cannot get part A from part B, and then you think, okay, then I throw it away. All right, so understood. Don't wait for A, B, and C. Start to learn what is DFR, design for recycling. So this is the Article 6, basic recyclability design obligation. So this is like kind of a risk assessment, what you also need to do for a product. You take a packaging, hold it in your hand and think, okay, this is not good. Or what is it? I think in many stages, André, today they will look at it and say, what actually is it? What's in it? What kind of materials are these? Because if I'm looking at bill of material for products, then I look for a bill of material for packaging. What kind of materials are there, and even also what kind of glue is used, or A or B, and what kind of ink is used on the printing, and what kind of glue is on the backside of the label. These kind of things. Start with collecting information. We go to that later. So Article 6 to A to B, that's the acceleration. So there will be grades like labels, A, B, C. And these, what I understood, André, that these grades later also will be used in a harmonized way to determine what kind of contribution you need to pay for recycling. EPR.
Exactly. There should be like a harmonized eco-modulation approach. So grade A for packaging, which is grade A, you will pay less than for packaging grade C.
Yeah.
That's in the end the approach that they are going to implement in the future.
Eco-modulation. Good. Exactly. So that means that I can save money, or I pay more. That's both. Just exactly. Okay.
Exactly.
Personally, I think that retail and trade and brands will dive into this and will speed this process up. The moment guidance will be there, I can imagine that some of the retail customers will say, okay, forget about, let's say, grade A by 2030. I want grade B, something like that. That probably will happen.
Yeah. So I expect that as well. But again, just to have it to be very, very clear, do not wait for those guidances, because the stage 2 guidances, ones will be published but don't wait for any 2026 guidance related to recyclability.
Yeah, because the basic knowledge that you need to start collecting and your basic principle that you need to organize in the process, you already should be worried about it today. Let's put it this way. Lose sleep over today. If not, by tomorrow. So some things make sense because other things are written down clearly. The moment I need to have a process and I need to have an evaluation of something, and I need to also, as an end result, declare that I did this process, because basically that's what a declaration of conformity is. It's an assumption. Then I need to be able to show to somebody that I did this process about what. And what is not a picture of a packaging? Well, it has a picture of packaging, but packaging has a part number. It's not a SKU, it's not an article, it's a part number of an article. And in that packaging, you all know that box, and then inside the box there's a box, and then there's a poly bag, and then there's a twister. Where I thought, what the hell is a twister needed for that one? And then there's a tie wrap, and then that's all packaging. And these are all parts, and these all have their own supply chain, and these have all materials. So in the future, if you have some tie wrap there, which is made out of 100% of some virgin material that cannot be recycled, that one will kill your whole rating. That's the way it is. So when André and I later talk about simplify before solving, that means get rid of those poly bags, twisters, and tie wraps. Oh, it cannot be done. Yeah, cannot be done. Go to some stores and see how it's been done. You can use carton paper and become smart. And there are fantastic packaging design companies out there. Yeah, they ask for money. Yeah, exactly. They ask for money. All right. So look at this. Each packaging type to have a unique identifier and have technical documentation. Even the first one. Look at all the packagings you have today. I think, okay, I just need to give them an article number plus then a P for packaging. Okay, that doesn't really solve the problem. I think you need to look at total quantities and volumes of materials you put on the market with the packaging and say, okay, where's my low-hanging fruit? What can I solve first? Because André, reality is you cannot solve all by 2026. You need to pick your battles.
You're right.
Yeah, but pick your battles is be able to do a napkin analysis. And nobody asks for more, but try to do a napkin analysis. So I have one challenge at the end of this seminar or guidance or compliance Tuesday, whatever you want to call it. That's what's the next action that you will do in the next hour. And I advise you is to make an appointment with key players in your company to do a napkin session about PWR or beer decal session or something, brainstorming on how the hell we're going to solve this, by who, by when. Because that's often all it takes to get it moving, is to put it in the agenda. Then some kind of digital product passport. It makes sense that, André, if we want to start to recycle and minimize the use of packaging, that we want to reduce the abundancy of information that we have to put on the packaging on how to recycle the packaging. Like here is an A4 sheet that explains to you why we are reusing the packaging. It makes sense to have instructions digitally on where to put things where. Makes sense to not use a lot of text, but icons to explain to consumers a direction into icons that are somewhere on a waste bin. And that solves a lot of discussions. It solves discussions of specific warnings and instructions in specific languages. And obviously, if you want to have instructions digitally available, nobody really cares how much that is, because it's like make one time and just simply provide access. But it goes a little bit beyond the instructions already from day one, right?
You're right. Right. In the end, the QR code is or the DPP is not directly referred to in the PPWR. Right. There's just like a hint to it. But in the end, the digital product passport will be relevant for packaging as well in the future, because it will be like the central media and information base. for also compliance-related information and for market surveillance activities as well.
Yeah, we don't need to give a big compliment to Brussels for using unique single-style languages, really harmonized horizontally as well. But if they talk about digital data carrier and don't mention the word digital product passport, then everybody knows what we talk about. Because ultimo somewhere it's written, don't put more than one QR code somewhere, which makes sense.
Exactly.
Unless you guys are a fan from QR codes, you can put many on it, but I wouldn't recommend. So digital accessible information. So one of the questions that you can write down on the wall, August 12th, 2026. What will I see when I scan the company's QR code? Because that's complete marketing driven, Don't do this because Brussels asks you something to do. Write down what you want people to see when they scan something that is connected to your brand. What do you want to see? And yes, they need to see information. And yes, they need to see something about how to turn this packaging into waste, or to deliver it in which basket, or what kind of materials you have used. Should there be a link to the declaration of conformity?
Yes, can be. In the end, in the DPP, it will be. Sure.
So we talked about phase 1, phase 2, and yes, digital QR code is not mandatory for every packaging. Phase 1, it's anyway, you will not solve it for phase 1, but again, pick your battles. Do a first napkin style analysis. What are the largest volumes where you can make the biggest impact? I think there's no market surveillance authority that will give you a tap on the shoulder, say, good job if you fix 100 small items and forgot about this one item that is tenfold the mass of the other 100. It doesn't make sense. Anybody would expect you to pick your battles in that sense. Interesting wording. We all know substances of very high concern, but here is something new, not entirely new, because you can also see it in toys. It's called substances of concern. And I think in this case, and André, it has more to do with the fact that you could add substances to packaging that prevent recycling.
E.g., yeah, that's one of the reasons in the end. And at the moment, there is a consultation related to a list of what are those substances of concern, or what are those in the future, at least, because there is that additional labeling requirement using the digital data carrier or the QR code from 2030. So in the end, avoidance of substances is a requirement already, and not only substances of very high concern, but substances of concern. That's a requirement at the moment already, or since the 90s already. But it will be more stricter, but also more regulated in the future as well.
Right. Well, substances of very high concern, SVHCs, packaging is a product on the reach already for many, many years. So there's no need for them to write that down in this legislation if it's covered somewhere else. But substance of concern, actually the EU Commission has the right to add new substance of concerns by simply public publication. And that means these are like layers that will add it to the regulation. So what we are all familiar with is heavy metals, lead, cadmium, mercury, chrome 6. That hasn't changed. New will be for materials, packaging material contact with food, new requirements for PFAS, that probably will extend to non-food contact material packaging. That's additional to REACH POP.
Exactly. And just as you mentioned, the EU has the right to also referring to lead, cadmium, mercury, and chrome 6 to change the thresholds. Because if they see that those 100 milligram per kilogram are not enough or not restrictive enough, they can change that as well in the future.
Makes sense. It's very simple logic. You can look at it and say, okay, these are very minor quantities in the materials. It's not a risk for the user. This is not just about the risk for me. I'm not holding the packaging in the hand for the rest of my life. What it has to do with, in the end, if we pollute the material, then we cannot use it for recycling. It's the same with lead and ink for newspapers. If you put enough lead in the ink for newspapers, they become waste and not raw materials to be reused in or reintroduced in the market. Don't forget, there's a whole scope about food contact material packaging in food contact material legislation already. To be honest, I don't understand why they put PFAS requirements in this framework here, because I would have put it in food contact material legislation and not food contact material packaging. It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, I'm not working in Brussels. So SVACs were there. Additional subject concern you addressed. Skip registration already obligatory. Shit for that. That's new. Minimization requirements. Yeah, I like it when DHL come with an electric fan and has a huge box with a USB stick in there. We drive electric. My friends are electric. That's an old song. Our friends electric? That was it. So, André, they had to write down in legislation that it doesn't make sense to put a small thing in a big box and drive electric to me.
Yeah.
That's what it says?
Obviously, because I just cite you because we just fucked it up in the last years. And all of you had those products ordered with like the big box.
No, I didn't. You did. You have it. Yeah. Okay, so this is
it's aware packaging.
It's aware packaging. Yeah.
If I'm working in logistics, I need to have that awareness to assure that I do not use that big box for such a small.
Yeah. Okay, but I've seen some of the large e-commerce players that they installed complete new packaging streets that measure the products that go into the box, cut the box on par, and so yes, an investment, but it makes sense, and yeah, you can calculate or you can ensure in the process that it should not exceed 50% empty space ratio. People will ask, but what about XYZ product that has shape ABC that cannot match? Okay, there's exemptions are always allowed, but don't explain them when asked. Explain them up front and show them the explanation that you had before you start doing it. Not date the explanation on a date after you got asked the question by market surveillance authorities. Date it the moment you make the decision. That's basically it. Yeah. I like it. Limiting empty space. It's called less. Good. Let's go one time back. DFR, remember? Remember? Design for recycling. It's so important. To be honest, I think 99 of the 100% of the companies we are dealing with Project B are not actively designing packaging. They're just buying what's out there. Right. Having said that, that doesn't mean that part of the supply chain could not do the design for recycling. This is a new function. Somebody in the company need to be the DFR specialist. So this minimization requirements needs also be part of technical documentation.
Exactly. That's what people are missing at the moment as well, because they focus on 2030 and packaging minimization requirements in 2030 as well.
Yeah.
But comparable to the recyclability requirement, packaging minimization is a must-have already since years. And so the PPWR refers to the part of the essential requirements for packaging, which is still active and continues to apply until 31st December 2029. So you have to assess in the conformity assessment procedure, you have to assess packaging minimization as well. And probably lots of you do packaging minimization because they care cost-wise, you know? It's like we always minimize packaging because we simply focus on costs, but probably only a few of you, if some in the end, only a few of you really assessed packaging minimization based on those performance criteria which are relevant. So this is like documentation again and as well, and it's work. And probably a lot of you didn't start dealing with that as well.
Right. So one of the things, Andre, that is really a big change from the directive, that is not just about primary, but also about secondary and tertiary packaging. So the scope is extended. You can say, oh, that's just the scope of type of packaging, but this is touching complete new parts of the industry.
Yeah,
If I was a logistics service provider, I probably don't have the old packaging directive on my radar. I don't even have a problem owner. I'm buying carton. I'm using carton. I'm putting the carton in a bin and offer it for recycling. And I probably think I do a good job, and perhaps they do. So they probably didn't make any conscious decisions. That having said that, that doesn't mean that their decisions that they have made unconsciously are wrong. But now they start to document it. But if you are a fulfillment service provider, and you are packing things from my brand in a very large box, then you are screwing up. So by extending that scope from primary packaging to also secondary and tertiary, let's say basically the complete industry and all the partners are touched. Productivity point of view, our scope is non-food, but this packaging is non-food, food, and feed. All products have packaging, and that's why this makes it so complex. And that also makes it complex when you look at the whole process of making the legislation. Because to be honest, the non-food sector was completely absent in all the remarks and comment sessions. But who were there were all the food producers, the chocolate producers, the bar producers, because they go berserk with all, if they need to do this for all the SKUs that they have, and the coffee makers. So I think they are more aware, consciously aware of the importance of packaging, because it's whole food, and so they have problem owners. So that last line, expect more clarity from design for recycling guidelines. I don't put it there to put you away from what I put in bold, August 12th. So I think design for recycling guidelines, Andre, this has also to do with discussions. If I use shrink wrap foil around a pallet on tertiary packaging, what do I need to do with that? And so guidelines also can be that there will be discussions and that a guideline will be produced. This is A, or this is B, or this is C. So
yes, and there will be that packaging minimization stage 2 as well, with like some really like restrictions that you have to refer to. This is something, and maybe to add just one thing to the slide you just showed before, related to the packaging minimization and the different roles and responsibilities. There's one crucial thing that you all should have in mind. If you are like the manufacturer of the packaging, and if you are like responsible for the packaging, you're probably responsible for like single inner and outer packaging. So this is something you need to or should refer to in the declaration of conformity or the conformity assessment procedure. Focusing on like the logistics service provider, for example, the one putting a product in like e-commerce packaging, for example, or in a transport packaging. There are other manufacturers, maybe of the transport packaging, and they should provide you with like compliant packaging, which is conform and has a DOC. And then, well, the ones working in logistics, they should really like with awareness responsibly use the packaging that was provided by a manufacturer.
Right.
So there
I think
are
it's good. I think it's good
different streams that you need to consider.
Yeah, but Andre, there are many companies involved, but each of those companies have a survival mode, and they have their own interest to comply. You know, if you are if you need to drag a horse to water, but it doesn't want to drink, it's not. Then find another horse. No greenwashing. So my packaging is recyclable up to 50%. It's great. Not allowed. That's misleading. That's actually already misleading in France, this kind of statement, because the lowest recycle grade is what you maximum can state. Or it says like a materials coming from a recycled source. If you cannot sustainable via any audit process, etc., then it's just BS bullshit. No greenwashing.
No greenwashing. and beside no misleading information, and in the end, no claim without a proof.
No claim without a proof. I will add that to the slide deck before distributing it. No claim without. To be honest, this is for me the pivot in the market. This is where people will get questions about, or will get, from not only market surveillance authority. This is low-hanging fruit. You make a claim, where's the evidence? That's easy. So how to solve it? No claim. That's good. But I want to make claim, prove it. Good. So that obviously brings it to the 3-man saga. We have talked about it before. I still write August 12, 2028. You challenge that to 2026. That's an interesting case. I agree with you, because it says if you have a packaging that fulfills the EU harmonized obligations, no EU member states is allowed to prohibit market access when packaging. And there's a transition period. It cannot be per that date. At the end of the transition period, it should already be per date of the start. So having said that, the market has many rules. The market is not Brussels. There's a reason why you are here. There's a reason why I am here, because it's where those two worlds not collide, but merge. If you make you may need to have a packaging that is compliant, like with food grade material. Need to fulfill that role, but you also need to consider the end of life of the packaging. That's not new, but we call it EPR, extended producer responsibility, because that's one of the questions. We are the importer of the product. Are we then the one that need to sign DOC, or what's our obligation? Yeah, that's similar with the product. Somebody that place a product on the market, imported, is the one that states compliance of packaging. And then at the end, somebody that makes it available, and there's some definitions there, who is a producer and who can be a producer. Not a producer in the sense of compliance, but producer in the sense of EPR, extended producer responsibility. That's the one who ultimately know the quantity sold over time, a period, a year, in a certain member state. And we are contributing in these recycle programs a fee, a levies, over quantities, over materials to member states, because via that we fund recycling. Unless you take care of recycling 100%, almost 100% by yourself. You can make your own recycle scheme. It's perfectly fine. You want to do it.
But those have to be accepted.
Sorry?
But those have to be accepted and approved.
Yeah. Come on, give me a break. That's easy, right? So compliance of the packaging must be declared by manufacturer brand owner. Basically, that's the beginning. That's the DOC. Is not the DOC is never signed by the one that sells the product to the end consumer. Not in that moment. He should already have a DOC before he actually starts considering selling it to a consumer. So that doesn't change.
Yeah,
and
that's
EPR point of view.
To maybe, sorry if I interrupt, because I guess you referred to one of the questions in the chat.
Yeah.
With like, we are the first importer into the EU. What obligations do we have?
Right.
Depends on really like the role. And if you are importing third-party brands, you are really just the importer. And then you have to assure that the manufacturer fulfilled all of the conformity requirements, like the conformity assessment procedure and the DOC. And there are also like labeling obligations that the importer has to fulfill. If you import your own brand products, you are the manufacturer. Just be sure about that.
Well, somebody says, is it safe to say that the responsibility EPR is equal to the rules of GPRS when it comes to EU REP? No. Different part. Completely different part of the process.
Yeah, EPR is member state related.
Yeah,
this is if we really focus on like this specific niche of the PPWR, or just that one piece of the puzzle. EPR, if we are, no matter which, if we talk about packaging or electrical and electronic equipment or batteries or textiles or whatever, EPR is a member state specific thing. So the producer, the so-called producer, probably has nothing to do with the manufacturer, different roles, different responsibilities.
Right.
And the producer is a member state related thing. So you need to consider how you put or place the products on the different markets.
Right.
Who are your clients? How do you do all of that in order to consider, are you defined as a producer or not?
Right. So basically, André, it's not different when declaring electrical safety of an electrical product. You know, some people say, okay, but Ultimo, I import the product, but it's under my customer's private label brand with their address. Who's responsible for compliance? Compliance, you are the importer. Yeah, but it's the client's brand. Yeah, but you're the importer. Your role is importer. So you are the importer. Yeah, but it's there. But you are the importer, so you already have a duty as importer that has nothing to do with EPR in the end.
All right.
So you can import very compliant packaging, but at the EPR you need to pay a lot because it is not recyclable at a certain grade in the future. Yeah. So yes, you cannot import a product at a certain level and then conclude at the end that you cannot recycle it. So there is already sort of kind of like the water goes down the stream. So the first thresholds are at the importer role, product compliance framework. It would be silly to have legislation that allows product compliance scope, any aspect in the compliance scope that blocks EPR at the end. It's never like that. Compliance scope is first, and within compliance scope, you have EPR grades. That is how it works. So EPR is just, it's what it says. It's a responsibility extended. It's later. It's after the market. Yeah, but we have both. You can have both. Right. Sure, you can have both. You can and be the importer and be the brand owner and sell the product. So you place it under the market. From compliance is your brand, so you're considered a manufacturer, quasi-manufacturer. You sign DOC. Okay, but our customer does FOB import. Okay, then your customer need to sign the DOC. This has nothing to do with EPR. These are basic Lego Duplo blocks of product compliance. Yeah, so it must be compliant first, and then later you can also make it recyclable. This is two different ways. You cannot blame the retailer that has an extended producer responsibility for trying to sell a product on the market that you import under your brand that you decide is not recyclable, when the law said it must be recyclable. This is like, you cannot blame the retailer for selling a non-electrical safe product because you thought it was a good idea to put non-electrical safe products on the market. It's different scopes. You know, first is, then that. And yes, they connect, obviously, because you cannot have the first filter so broad with aspects that you allow to say, okay, that's odd. So there's like a gap in the compliance filter that allows me to import something, but then later I cannot sell it. That's odd. Yes, that's odd. So it's stepped down every time. So and I think the most confusing word here is producer in EPR. Yeah, I know. We know, confusing. They should refer to place on the market and make available on the market. Would it be easier? But if you know, this is not a lecture on André Gierke, his training content. But Inga, you have a question, but I cannot give you the words. You really need to type it or send it per email later. There's many questions, and we'll probably answer them later as well if we have not answered. So let's move on. So what is interesting, not new for PPWR, it's in any legislation, we are all responsible. So we need to start asking questions to each other. And if I have the feeling that the ones that I buy the product from is making a mess out of it, then I'm also responsible because I knew that they are making a mess out of it. And then apparently I said, I think it's very convenient to buy from somebody who makes a mess out of it. So I can refer to my market surveillance audit. We only look for suppliers in Europe who make a mess out of it. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, one more time, I want you to read between the lines. Brussels says here that you should do something that we all should have been doing already. And I said it on Toys Directive, it's silly world that we need to write down that you need to have toys that are safe for your kids, that they shouldn't be produced by kids. This is the world we live in, so don't shoot the messenger, in this case, Brussels. Collective responsibility.
No problem,
If
no
you know
regulation.
your suppliers in Europe, your importers, your in-between entities, or your transportation companies are screwing up, then you're also screwing up. If you don't know because you never audit, you also screw up. That's there. Don't ask Andre, don't ask me, ask your legal advisor. What does this mean, collective responsibility? Yeah, Caspar, but we have 120,000 different suppliers. Yeah. Russell don't care about that. You have collected them all without asking questions in the first place. That's what Andre and I mean. The challenge is not that packaging need to be recycled. The challenge is that we have not taken the legislation seriously for the last decades. And now we need to solve it. So QR code is moving. In general, this is GS1. It's actually coming from retail. So we can talk about August 26th, but retail cash registers 2027 will have QR codes. That's tomorrow in retail. Not the market, it's Brussels. So start talking with customers, start talking with suppliers, start talking with your key customers. What is going on? What's your planning? What's your schedule? There's tests going on in large retail stores in France already. Yes, people are running tests. So you wonder, why aren't we running tests? It's very, very complex. And one thing is that, and Andre and Kevin Rottler and I, we have sometimes trainings. I think that the largest enforcement comes from the market. And that had also to do with this collective responsibility.
At the moment, it's like that. I guess in the future, we will have like two streams, which is a market and the digital market surveillance activities.
Yeah, but I'm a fan of follow the money in that sense, you know. So a mind shift is that the barcode is like a trade, very functional, very logistic, it has data, but QR code is about trust because it instantly gives somebody who wants to review information access to information without you knowing it. It should be there before you put the product in the market, and you cannot solve the problem if you make errors. So this makes it, yeah, it's confidence basically. Yeah. So in the collective responsibility, it makes it very easy to also check if your statements are bullshit or December 2027 QR code. Yeah, tomorrow. And we use this example, and some of you have seen it before, but this is a power bank with the cable, and Andre, it has a paper twister around the cable. It's good. Cannot recycle. It's not glued. It's just folded together.
Sure thing.
It has a power bank. It has a battery. It has a charger. It has a packaging. So we are so used to put all the compliance information, including the statement of no heavy metal in the packaging. We all put it in this one file, market access file or technical file. I like to call it market access file. That era is ended. It's really, if you still are in this mode, leave this mode as soon as possible. But again, pick your battles, because batteries will have their own declaration of conformity. Packaging will have their own declaration of conformity. Actually, adapters should have their own declaration of conformity, including that they need to have a USB-C soon as well. Must be, and can have not have a cable fix, and they have probably standby current. And then this cable with USB-C actually has EMC aspects. It can use 100 watts. So, oh my God, that's also, wow, it's a part. Yes. They all have their own conformity evidence and aspects. And DOC. Yeah. So somebody asked about, what about the Annex 7? Yeah. Somebody needs to sign that. But Ultimo, it will become one product. So the one product, so you have like component files or single topic files, but at the end you will have one DOC. But if you have food, DOC, so every product will have a declaration of conformity. Yeah, because every product has packaging. Wow. If you like paperwork instead of product IP, feel free to make them in Word, Excel, Post-its, print them out, sign them, email them to colleagues, track versions. Guys, you gotta love your work. And Andre, I read recently that EU did not change the omnibus on CSRD and CSDD and ESG aspect on suppliers. So the moment you are making more files because there are more entities that deserve their own set of information, you will be subjected to more supplier information than your previous single tier, and you need to have some information about audits. And then we look into the packaging as a case. Who makes this box? Well, the one that makes the box is probably not the one that makes your product. Okay, they buy the box from who? The one that makes the box, he doesn't make the carton. He buys the carton from a wholesaler. Okay, but who's making the carton? I have no idea. I also have no idea, but somebody should know. But they have multiple sources. Then list all the sources. And but they claim they have FSC. Okay, where's the evidence? And this is how it goes. Now you have the box, and then you have a label. Who prints the label? Who supplies the label? What kind of ink? What? Oh my God, Andre, this is crazy.
Exactly. And nobody asked for that in the past. And even though some did, your supplier will anyway tell you, oh, you're the first one asking for this kind of information.
Yeah, that's if I get a euro for every time somebody said that to me, then you and I wouldn't be here. We would play golf somewhere.
Yeah, right.
but it makes sense if I always buy the product that comes in the packaging that my product supplier is already having prepared. This is convenient, right? And so you agree with me that don't hold everybody responsible for the past, because you and I are children of the past and we have enjoyed the past as well. But the reality check is that we are on a pivot, and yesterday is not good enough for tomorrow.
Right.
So the napkin session totally makes sense, right?
Exactly.
Good.
Totally agree.
Because we go from SKU to batch. Okay, so don't tell me, Andre, I need to do this for every batch.
Depends on how you want to plan your recall strategy.
Come on. So you can see that you need to start now, right? There's many ways to start, and one good thing is to when you get the material again, add Andre as a contact person in your inbox. So when you send him an email, then you don't need to type his name again, and then look up his information and start to increase your knowledge as well. So, and of course, besides using Andre, use Project Happy. You can actually make a file for a battery in Project Happy. Makes sense. For a cable, makes sense. You can actually make a file for packaging in Project Happy. Is it phase 2? No, it's phase 1. Can you make a declaration of conformity? Yes. Can you ask for a bill of material? Yes. Can you connect a supplier? Yeah, just like a product. Sure, you could already make a file in Project Happy for packaging that you sell as packaging. Maybe you sell gift boxes, but that's not what I mean. This is a part of the product. Oh, but we even haven't assigned an article number to that. Just use the SKU number and add /P or something like that. Don't make yourself life complex in the beginning. So it's a little bit gray sky under 12 degrees. What's the temperature in the market?
Lower than that.
Okay. Or somebody's asking, can we create DOC for packaging in Project P in the future? Well, in the past already. But you can also, by the way, Andre, just a quick reminder for those that are working in Project P, the pay-as-you-go function still is there. Yeah, but so for very small producers, it still makes sense to buy credits. But if you are a retailer and you make now, let's say, oh, it doesn't make sense to go to some kind of subscription model because we only have 50 SKUs. It's not about SKUs. It's about how many batches you will have, and what is the supply chain tree looks like. So this is not 20 becomes 40. No, this is 20 becomes easily becomes 40 becomes 400 becomes 1,000 entities in the market files. Not every time extensively new could be adding one aspect, but sets of information links to a product that you order. And since nobody can actually predict how many that are, doesn't make sense for Product to charge customers per query. So we have flat rate models. Then you know what the cost is, and you pay a little bit more than a meteor QA/QC person, I would say, but you get a whole lot. And if you don't think that you can earn that back because it's cheaper for somebody in your company to make Word documents, then do that. Don't make me unhappy with that. But don't tell me you do it. Just do it. Don't call me. But the flat rate perfectly makes sense because Product it runs 24/7 and don't take holidays. So, André, temperature in the market, we're approaching winter, right?
We're approaching winter, and it's I guess it's a very, very cold winter at the moment because the temperature is really like low. Why is that? Because a whole lot of companies that are affected by PPWR really don't know. They don't know their role. They underestimate the requirements. They focus on 2030. There are so many reasons for that, but almost all of them are too late. So there should be a very high temperature because they should be running, and therefore temperature should be high.
But you say they don't know their role, but they know their roles, but they have never written them down in respect to the consequence of the role. So they say, okay, why not open a store on Amazon to get rid of that what we were not able to sell last year via brick and mortar retail, traditional customers, and let's put it on our own Amazon store. And because we don't want to put the customer brand on it, we repack it and pack it again and put our brand on it, put a sticker on it and then sell it. So it's from a business point of view, you have to agree, this is a very logic decision. But somebody needs to say, great idea, let's look at the consequences on the entire scope. So can we participate with Amazon? So all the operational stuff, agree. But the other operational stuff is, now we are also becoming in the EPR roles. Oh, so we're selling in 27 countries, right? Yeah.
Right.
Good idea.
That's one thing, but it's also really like the definition of the manufacturer.
Right.
So many people do not understand that if they sell own brand products, they are the manufacturer, because they still think, I didn't produce the carton box.
Yeah, but now you're also using manufacturer. Now you're also using manufacturer. You mean producer?
No, I'm talking about the manufacturer role. The manufacturer role, the one who is responsible for compliance, for conformity assessment procedures and stuff.
Understand.
And people, so too many still don't consider themselves as a manufacturer because they think, I got my supplier. There is someone producing the carton box. That's not my responsibility.
Understood.
There isn't my name on the poly bag. So I'm not responsible for that poly bag. But you are. If it is your own brand product, you are the manufacturer, and you have to deal with all of those conformity assessment procedure related things, finally ending up in the DOC. That is ours. But so many still don't know that and don't realize that maybe they don't want to understand, but that's really like a tough thing.
That's the foundation of everything. So that's the first one. But the other one is, if I let's say I make myself the manufacturer by putting suddenly my label on the product, so I need to do it, and I did all that. But if I then forget that I've become a new kind of role in the market when I open my own e-commerce platform.
Right, sure.
And I ship it in a very large box. So then I do two things wrong, because I also am responsible for the e-commerce packaging. So
yeah, sure thing.
André, these kind of combinations, this is not an infinity number of combinations, but it's simply something that people are not considering enough as being a relevant risk when they make a decision. So this is the nature of retail and trade. This is very purchasing mode. And I understand the thrill of making one when you sell for two and bought for one. I understand that. That is a thrill. And it's not as sexy and exciting and dynamic if you first need to wait 2 weeks and take 10 cents away from that potentially one to participate in all kind of what takes just the fun out of things. Yeah, got it. So one reason why the temperature is low.
Maybe one further thing. Now some people will say, I only do third-party brand stuff. So
Yeah.
I produce for my customers on their brand, on their behalf and stuff. So I'm totally out of it. You're a supplier then, right? So think about CAAS, compliance as a service.
Right. Yeah. Or as I wrote it, data is the new compliance money, because your customer likes you because you offer him compliance as a service. The right product with the right compliance information in the right time, in the right color. Yeah. So where to start? I would say, Andre, people should put something in the agenda as a start with their own teams to figure out who's going to do what, when, get a problem owner. If you don't make an appointment somewhere in the agenda, then you would not start. You need to really physically change something. And one of the principles that I posted last, I think 2 weeks ago, is like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5, what are you going to do in the next 5 years? What are you going to do in the next 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, next hour? And that you can do by a project too. And next hour means in the morning, your first priority. And it's very brutal. Anything not on the list gets a label to be avoided at any cost, because it's called distraction. Can you change your policy? Yeah, you can change your policy every day. You need to review things, but in the morning, what am I going to do in the first hour? If it's so important, really important, that all other things become to be avoided at any cost. First thing first.
Yeah, understanding and commitment.
Yeah, but Andre, does it really pay off?
It's about market access. That's simply it.
Yeah. So it's a kind of a fear of missing out, but then in a different way.
Yeah, it's like maybe all of you know that non-compliance didn't hurt in the past. It really, honestly, it didn't. There are some cases where it hurt.
Yeah.
But most of the time it didn't hurt. But this is the new language, the new signature of the European Union.
Yeah.
Things are changing. They know what was fucked up in the future. And that's why the regulatory tsunami is out there. That's why all of the new regulations really have like the same signature. It's specific. It's about transparency. It's about specific requirements which are measurable. It's about digital requirements and therefore highly enforceable surrounding.
It's like new rules of the game. It would also be, I say sometimes, if you compare it with logistics, nobody would think it's a good idea if you start to design your own pallets and your own containers and your own kind of Eurohook. It doesn't make sense. This is because it's not just your game or that from your customer. It's a harmonized game in that sense. And Europe is still 400 plus million consumers. By the way, this QR code initiative, it's also for the US, right? We are simply running out of numbers. That's also EN code. Very quickly, icons, anyone? I wrote that because in 2024, you said we're going to probably use the Nordic icon set. Is that still there? I was in the Nordics, saw some icons, so iconics, but
let's wait what happens. There was a consultation about the new pictogram system. So there will be harmonized icons in the future. Let's see how they will look like, because the consultation was really like insane. One could say really like crazy, because there were like thoughts like, maybe we need language as well. Perfect. Language is great. It's a game changer, but what kind of language? Which one?
Language.
So let's wait and see.
Work to be done. Simplify before solving. That would be the idea. I quickly go to
I guess we lost Caspar, right? Are you still there, Caspar? guess Caspar lost connection somehow. I'm not quite sure how that happened. So I do not have the slides available. That's why I would say let's maybe wait for Caspar, but also have a look at the FAQs that you refer to in the chat. And I'm just gonna go through them real quickly. There was a question about, are poly bags, LDPE or HDPE, considered as recyclable? Hard to answer because I don't know anything further about that. If it's like monomaterial, nothing added to it, no sticker, no glue, whatever, no relevant print and stuff, probably that's recyclable. Yes, but you see, probably we need to have some further information for that. We talked about the role if we are the first importer. Then there's another question, and maybe you can add some further details to it. Are there guidelines on acceptance? The term is very sensible to interpretation. I'm not quite sure what you refer to be honest. So maybe Sharon, in that case, feel free to add further details to that question. Is there a standard document to be used for the packaging minimization assessment? Yeah, there are some out there which you can use. There are standards existing in the world. So depends on what kind of conformity assessment procedure or what kind of source you're using in order to refer to compliance. Okay, there was another question like, we import, sell to a brand owner, and the brand owner's details are on the label, then the brand owner is the one responsible. What's this? Just a second, please. Sorry for that. Caspar was kicked out. So I'm not sure if he can join in again, but I was referring to the question related to importing a brand owner's product, and the brand owner sells the products in its name. So that means that the brand owner needs to prove packaging compliancy. Right. The brand owner is the manufacturer with the related obligations. But as a supplier, of course, you should think about that compliance as a service approach that I refer to. What if we import it under private label for our customer? Who's then the producer? Producer, different role. But if you do these kind of services, you're probably not the producer. Again, you're a supplier facing related. You're back again. Facing related requirements, and nevertheless, the brand owner, then the owner of the private label, has responsibilities and needs to deal with that. Yeah. So Caspar, just to get back to you, I'm going through the FAQs at the moment because you were kicked out.
I was kicked out. They didn't like me, but I think we can still also go to the Mentimeter even if you want to go.
Yeah, perfect. So I hand over to you again.
So if you're still in the Mentimeter, we had this what's blocking from progressing, accelerating. And now that we have done our session, how confident are you that you will meet the requirements by August 26? Ooh, should be in the middle again. Well, Inga and Miriam still have their questions in the chat.
Right. Yeah, there are some. I didn't go through all of them yet.
Okay. We'll have a look at that later. We're saving the chats anywhere. So.
We see confidence is lower than before. That's what I expected, to be honest.
Should not be. Should be more. Right. All right. But we expected that because I think reality hits in. Yeah. But don't be surprised by this. You know, knowing more information will do that. But actually, you should convert this. You will run into new legislation in many ways in the coming years. That's our job. You know, it's our job to solve it, and we take it on the chin and convert it into actions. So basically is, if you look at that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where we talked about what's your first move in the next hour. Now I really hope, Andre, that they just not recorded only this last part. But anyway, those who were not in the session were not in the session, right? So in one sentence, what's your first move in the next hour, basically?
Should be something like
very good.
Connect to Caspar and to Andre, something like that.
Something like that. PIM. Yeah, I talked with various PIM implementation people. I think it's more in process way than in PIM way in that sense. PIM doesn't simplify first. And if you draft the email to stakeholders, that's good. That's good. Yeah. You know, you could make a brainstorm with some of the people, say, what if, and then in 5 years, and I think you should write down the what if in 5 years we can have with confidence statements about recyclability of the packaging because it's important for our brand. We have limited the number of potential variations in packaging from Y to X. We have a Z number of dedicated packaging suppliers to be able to minimize variation in the market. We have a design contest with some university or product design to make the fantastic packaging for a new product. Anything positive rather than from negative. You know, it's always about the business. And if anything that you make in progress, we're going to document it. We're going to share it internally. We're going to engage. I think you always need to treat it from that point of view. What about that, Andre?
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's finish then really in an official way. Details are there. Are the chats still there?
FAQs are there still.
Sorry?
FAQs are there in the end.
The FAQs are still there. Q&A. Is EPS styrofoam considered recyclable? Ooh, that's a good discussion. But does the DOC needs to reference the product? In the end, yes.
Yeah.
But the packaging elements need to be having elements. So it need to be a process. You need to update picture, Caspar. Yeah, I need to update picture. Good. We'll get new photos today, Sharon. Thanks for that. Can really new photos be made today. Appreciate the comment. Where's the chats? Webinar chats. Did I lose all the chats, Andre, or not?
I guess there was nothing in the chat. It's only in the Q&As. So if you have like Q&As before you logged in again.
I had many in the chat as well, but I think it's somewhere. All right. Well, Zoom kicked us out. Zoom kicked us in. Thank you for sticking with us for this time. Andre, kudos. Thank you, buddy. With a cold and a sore throat. Appreciate the insights and the energy. Lovely.
You're welcome.
People still raising hands. Yeah. I cannot give you the words today to this. So if you want to reach out to Andre and me, I'll add the email address Andre to the handout as well. And you all will get the handout today. Links to the video will be whatever Zoom has recorded. We'll try to mix that. Lunch would be a good idea. Thanks for that. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.